Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Are you a beginning prepper and you're wondering, how do I get started with food storage? Are you wondering what foods to get started with? Are you concerned because food shortages seem to be a reality that isn't going away? Prices are rising, foods are less readily available, and there may be food on the shelf, but maybe it's not completely full, the shelf, it's only the front row of the shelf, or the selection and the variety of foods is just not there. The shelf may be loaded for half of the aisle, but it doesn't include any variety. It's all of the same food, whether you like it or not. That's what's available. I like to spend time at Granny Camp, which is my Alaska off-grid cabin. When I come out here, I spend a lot of time alone, and it doesn't have any electricity, it doesn't have any running water, it doesn't have any of those things. It's basically just a cabin in the woods. I need to have basic foods that are simple to prepare, just using something like a camp stove or a fire pit. What are some foods as preppers that you can stockpile that are long-lasting, easy to prepare, and don't require something like refrigeration? Well, they always talk about beans and rice, and yes, I have some beans out here, but it's not likely that I would want to prepare dried beans because they take a long time to cook, and I'm cooking on like a camp stove. But I have them out here because if that's all I had, yes, I would certainly learn to figure out how to make them with limited resources. Along with your dried beans and rice, make sure you have some cans of beans. It may not always be practical to cook the dried beans. You may not have the fuel or the time, but you can still make a meal using your beans if you have some that are already fully cooked in a can. Rice is great because you can basically put it into the boiling water, put on the lid, and allow it to just sit, and it will finish cooking by itself. Beans are a little more complicated. However, I do bring lentils out here. Lentils are a great type of a bean. They're legumes and they are faster cooking. Yes, they still take probably half an hour, 45 minutes, but they don't take as long as regular dried beans. You can put a handful of lentils into a can of Italian-style stewed tomatoes or diced tomatoes and simmer it on the pot, and the lentils will cook. Think of it like risotto. Stir it occasionally. If it needs more liquid, add some water, but there's quite a bit of water already in the can, and you can usually prepare the lentils that way. Then if you want more spices, spice it up. And that's an easy thing that you can serve over pasta. The lentils are sort of like what the beef would be, and you may not have meat or a way to keep meat refrigerated or frozen, and you can substitute something like a can of meat, or you can use lentils. Pasta is also a great food to have on hand. It lasts nearly forever. I always store it into jars, so because it's airtight. Sometimes I vacuum seal it, but you need to be careful because dried pastas have little sharp corners, and sometimes when you vacuum seal these types of foods, it makes a little pinhole, and you may not even realize that there is a hole and air is still leaking in. So it's easier for me to store them into glass jars or hard-sided plastic containers with tight-fitting lids. The spaghetti is just too long. I just break it in half and pour it into the jar. If space is a concern, look for shapes of pasta that are the most uniform. Something like spaghetti, linguine, fettuccine, angel hair. Least amount of space compared to something like rotini or penne, which it's all basically the same, it's just the shape. But if you have something that's twirly or hollow in the middle, you need more space to store that kind of pasta in your food storage. It's nice to have those different varieties. It may not be practical if you live in tight quarters. Oatmeal is great. You don't even have to cook it. You can even make oatmeal as overnight oats. Pour some of the oatmeal into a clean jar, add some water. You can even add the regular toppings that you like. I have some brown sugar, some raisins, craisins, whatever you like on top of your oatmeal. Then just allow it to soak overnight, and your oats will become soft and they're ready to eat. I never buy the instant oatmeals. I think they're very expensive and they don't have anywhere near the amount of food that you get if you buy oats. I also prefer to buy the long cooking oats simply because I feel like you're getting more nutrition, more food. Yes, they take a little longer to prepare, But if you're soaking them or you put them on to boil, cook regular old-fashioned oatmeal a little longer than the quick cooking. It's finished cooking in just a few more minutes. Another easy food that can go into your prepper pantry is something like pancake mix. This one's by Krusty's. It's the blueberry. You just add water. I can measure it into a bowl, stir it up, and cook it right in a little pan over my camping stove. I store these types of foods in the container and I just write the measurements on it to make 1 or 2 servings, and then it's ready for me to measure out and begin to prepare whatever I want. If you want toppings to go, like syrups or something, make sure that you have that with your pancake mix. When I buy boxes of things like pasta-roni, macaroni and cheese, stovetop stuffing, suddenly salad, I like to take those out of the package because I don't want to store them in a cardboard box, and I put them in a Ziploc bag, and then I store them inside a canning jar with a tight-fitting lid. Then when I want to make one, I can pull out, and here's an entire package ready for me to prepare. See how much less room that takes up than a big old box full of air? Plus the box can get chewed on by critters. It doesn't keep your food airtight, and you're just wasting so much space in your pantry. This helps the food last much longer. So I have in each bag, I have the seasoning pack and the pastas, and several of them will fit into a jar. I've had these types of foods last several years past the date on the package, and they're still perfectly fine. The only thing that would actually go out of date in these would be the seasoning packet. Maybe the macaroni and cheese packet wouldn't be good to eat anymore, or the seasoning packet in your pasta-roni, but the macaroni or the pasta is going to stay fresh nearly forever. So don't throw the entire thing out if you think that the sauce packet is no longer good to eat. Cook the macaroni or the pasta and then just top it with something else. One thing I did discover, I couldn't find enough metal lids a few years ago, so I bought some of the plastic lids, which I thought were great, but I realized that they just don't keep things as airtight as the regular lid. So one thing that you can do is put a metal lid over it, the regular metal canning lid, and then add the plastic lid to help keep it airtight. But just the plastic lid isn't going to keep your food as long term as a metal lid. Look over your canning jars. Some of them actually have the measurements on the side so that you can fill this up, then you know, do I have a half a cup, 1 cup? Having that built-in measuring cup can help you know how many servings might be left in your dry ingredients. You can also use it as a measuring cup to add water into your mixes. If you like beverages, get some tea bags. How about some powdered milk? This one is the Nido Fortificata, which is my favorite. I've done videos about how much I like this milk and how it's the only powdered milk that I do store. I'll put a link to that video in case you're interested to learn more about what's my favorite kind of powdered milk. I also have hot chocolate mix, which I made up myself from foods that I have in my prepper pantry. I'll put a link to a video on how to make the hot chocolate mix if you're interested. I have a jar of granola. This is granola that I made myself in the crock pot. I'll put a link to that video of how to make granola in the crock pot if you want to learn to make it yourself. It's really simple, and then you can control the flavors and the ingredients so that you're eating foods that you actually enjoy. In addition to your basic foods, you need some easy to open foods that you can make a meal in a hurry, because sometimes an emergency means having something to eat today, right now, at this time. You don't have time to start cooking any of these items. Then you want to have instant things that are already prepared, ready to eat. You can get pouch meals. You can look for the Hormel Completes that come in a little dish. They're designed to be heated up in the microwave, but if you don't have a microwave, some of these I've heated them up in a pot of hot water, but you don't even need to heat them up. They're completely cooked, and you can just tear them open and eat them if you don't have time to heat them up. If it's summertime, you could probably just put it on the dashboard of your car outside in the sunshine, and that'll heat it up in no time. You can also look for things that don't need to be heated up at all, like this quinoa artichoke cup. It has 2 different cups, and you just stir them together. They don't have to be heated up. It's an easy, ready-to-eat meal. It even includes a little spoon, which isn't the best spoon I've ever had, but it's nice to have it because otherwise you're going to have a harder time eating this. Then think about snack foods. You can have peanut butter and crackers. You can make meals out of canned food. Have some canned fruits and vegetables, but make sure that you rotate those. They don't last forever. Some people say canned foods last forever, and it just isn't true. Fruit and tomatoes don't last nearly as long as other foods do. The meat can last a long time. Lots of foods can last longer, but you're supposed to be buying foods that you're willing to eat and you're rotating them. And especially with the things like fruits and tomatoes, pay attention to the date because the acidity in the fruits and the tomatoes can actually start to deteriorate the can. You always want to look over the can and see, does it have anything that's bulging, anything that looks weird? And if it does, throw it away. Just because it's out of date, though, you don't need to throw it away. When you open it, it shouldn't spurt, it should smell good, it should look right, and you can even take a little taste. But if you have any doubt at all, throw it out. That's what my mother always said. When in doubt, throw it out. It's not worth getting sick over a few dollars worth of food. You can get a can of chicken, a can of mixed vegetables, a package of instant potatoes. You can put that together and make a meal. And it's simple. You just need to heat it up. You just need to add water to the potatoes, and that's all there is to it. I like the Idahoan. They're very good, and you only need to add water. Some of the packages require you to add milk and butter. These just require water. We may not always have all of the additional ingredients to make the meal. Stock up on canned ready-to-eat meals like chili and soup. You can even take a can of soup and heat it up and serve it over mashed potatoes. You can serve it over pasta. You can serve it over rice. There's a lot of different ways and combinations that you can have to make your meal more filling. Make sure you have the basics to make your meals flavorful. I have some oil, cinnamon, pepper, garlic, and onion. I buy the onion powder, garlic powder. I don't buy them as salt. There's already too much salt in everything, and that's an expensive way to buy salt. Why would you want to pay for salt when you could get all onion or all garlic and add any salt that you need? Salt is another food that they will tell you just leave it in the package, and I have had bad luck with that. I left salt out here at Granny Camp over the winter, and when I came back it was hard as a rock. It had absorbed too much moisture just from the humidity in the air, and then it was basically no good. Nobody wants to sit around chipping away and grating at a box of salt when you could store it properly so that it's going to stay dry and last longer. The better you store your food, the longer it lasts. These are some basic foods and ideas to help you get started with food storage. If you haven't started, begin immediately. It's very important. Food shortages are on the horizon whether we want to admit it or not. Nobody likes the idea of it, but you want to make sure that you'll have the things you need. If you have started your food storage, look it over. Make sure that you have foods for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks, and that your food is being rotated so that it's fresh. If you see a new food you think you'd like to try, buy one, take it home and try it. If you like it, go buy more. Don't stock up on something you don't know what it is. It's a waste of your money and your food storage pantry space to find out nobody wants to eat it. Trying new meals, putting foods together in unique ways might help you just find a few new family favorites. If there's foods that you think we should include in our stockpile, share it in the comments below. We can learn a lot from each other to help make the road ahead as smooth as possible. If you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.